For today's episode, I want to talk about the fear of being seen trying. I think I've talked about this a few times already, but there are so many avenues and nuances to this topic that I love to explore because it's what I've had to explore throughout my own journey. And they just keep arising for me. And I realize that I think a lot of people also need to dissect the way this fear of being seen trying appears for them, because it can go so much deeper than just fearing being seen trying, because what does that really mean? It can mean so many things, and that's what I want to explore. So today, I want to talk specifically about the fear of being seen trying, because you fear being seen taking something seriously. So imagine the fear of being seen trying is an umbrella fear, and beneath that umbrella is the fear of being seen trying because you fear being seen taking something seriously. And this, I think, is specific to those of us who have been conditioned to be maybe over-perceptive or over-caring of how we're perceived. I think those of us who fear being seen taking something seriously have been shamed for taking things seriously, for being too much at times, for being somebody who really desires something and wanting it and asking it. Maybe you've been shot down throughout your whole life about the things that you want. You're not given them, or you're told not to want them because you won't get them anyway. You've been conditioned to believe that you are maybe not worthy enough to get them, or that there's no point even trying because you haven't seen evidence or proof that you will get something. Or maybe you've been shamed and made fun of by people in your life for desiring things. Maybe you feel shame around your desire. I think all of that is incorporated in this fear of being seen taking something seriously. And so taking something seriously requires you to take yourself seriously. And if you don't see yourself as good enough or worthy, then of course you're going to struggle to take something seriously because you are not serious in your mind. And maybe you also struggle with this idea that you are a child still. Maybe you feel infantilized in many ways. You haven't felt like you have properly grown up. And I don't mean this to say that you have to embody this belief, this conditioned belief, or this external expectation of what adulthood is. I think we have a lot of narratives around that don't align with everybody and what they want in their lives. What I mean is you still feel like your inner child. And if your inner child was suppressed, if your inner child was told that they are not good enough, or they're being too much, or they can't handle something, so they're not given something more, then you're going to struggle now with seeing yourself as an adult who would then be able to see themselves as serious. Because that is part of the process of growing up, is seeing yourself as able to handle the things in your life, able to take care of yourself, able to do things for yourself that are important, vital, necessary. If you struggle with that, you're not going to see yourself as a serious person. And that does not mean, taking yourself so seriously that you don't have a sense of humor about yourself, or that you can't laugh things off, or you can't have fun. And seriousness means being, again, this constructed identity of adulthood, which I think I myself have fallen into throughout my life, thinking that I have to be a certain way, do certain things to be considered an adult. And I'm sure others have their own ideas of what that means for them or what they've been told. That doesn't mean anything, right? It's not about the specifics. It's more about your idea of yourself as an adult, as somebody who now is behind the wheel of the car, which is your life. You're the one in control. You're the new parent in a sense. If you are the new parent and you don't take yourself seriously, how are you going to see yourself as an authority? You can't. So then when you don't see yourself as an authority, you don't see yourself as serious, you don't take yourself seriously, you're going to have a hard time doing things in your life, taking control of things that are necessary for you, that you even want to do. And so because you feel like an imposter, because you don't take yourself seriously, you're not going to be able to take things seriously or let yourself be seen taking something seriously, because you think they're going to know that I'm not actually serious. They're going to know that I'm an idiot, or that I'm silly, or this is frivolous and futile, that I'm just play acting this identity of a person who's serious. And so you'll sabotage yourself and your efforts, which is such a shame, because again, all of that is within your control. Not everything, of course. Not everything in life is within your control. There are many things you can't control, but the only things that are in your control require you to take them seriously, to be serious about them. Again, not in a, intense way where you're neglecting your playfulness, your inner child, because they need to be incorporated in your life as well. It's not supposed to be all doom and gloom and, seeing this adult version of yourself as somebody who cannot have fun and enjoy things. But you have to take it seriously in the sense that your word is your word and you have to stick to it. You have to have integrity with what you say. And you have to risk the vulnerability of taking something seriously and being seen in that seriousness. It is very vulnerable. It's so vulnerable to say, I'm doing something. This is who I am. This is what I want. And I'm going to try it. And I'm going to be serious about trying it. And I'm going to let people see me try it. And obviously, not everything that you do requires you to have to show it to people. Some things you can do behind closed doors and you do the work and you work towards your goal and nobody has to see it. It's not necessary for anyone to see it. But there are many things that you will be seen doing. It's just part of life. There are many things that that are going to be seen by others, whether you want them to or not, because you are maybe growing something in your life that is going to just be seen at some point. You don't have to talk about it all the time. You don't have to express it to people and tell them this is what I'm doing, because I do think there is value in making silent moves throughout your life so that you don't feel overwhelmed by the external perception of others. Or, if you talk about it first, you don't actually do it because you've already validated that feeling of, see, I'm doing it because I'm talking about it. There's science behind that. But I do think, yes, making silent moves. But sometimes there are things that you're going to be seen doing, right? So as an example, with the work I do, it's creative work and I post it online. I'm going to be seen in this. I'm being seen trying, and I'm being seen taking something seriously. This is something I struggled with a lot throughout my life. And only very recently, I've been doing this only for about 3 years, which is very recent when it comes to any sort of creative endeavors or creative career. But only until really recently was I able to say, you know what? I have to take it seriously, because either I take it seriously or I lose out on an opportunity to grow something that I really genuinely enjoy. You have to choose your sacrifice. Something is going to have to be sacrificed either way, and you have to choose which one that is. But if you deeply fear being seen trying and being seen taking something seriously, you're never going to make the sacrifice that's necessary for you to then step into your authenticity and be the kind of person you want to be and do the things you want to do. And so that's kind of a shame, right? Because you only have one life to live, and it'll be hard to overcome those insecurities about what people think about you. But the more you do it, the more you take yourself seriously and see yourself as serious, the more others will too. It's so funny how that happens. So people just kind of fall into line. They look to you as being an example of how to treat you a lot of the time. Not always, of course. People are going to act the way they act. But a lot of the time, you can play around with this to challenge yourself to explore different identities and see how people respond to you. Maybe not the people that already know you, because they've grown used to who you are. But the way you show up, the way you treat yourself, shows others how you expect to be treated and how you're used to being treated. And it then projects it onto them, and they fall into line because that's just the way you're navigating your life. Again, this is a kind of power that you don't realize you have if you've been conditioned throughout your whole life to think that you are powerless, that you have to be a people pleaser. There are certain elements of power we have within ourselves. Of course, not always, but in some areas there are. And it's important for us to take that power back and to embody it so that it's good for us and it's good for other people too. Because when we show up authentically, it allows other people to show up authentically, and now we connect from an authentic place. And that builds stronger relationships and healthier relationships. But going back to the fear of being seen taking something seriously, I think for many of us, myself included, the idea of taking something seriously is very icky. There's an ickiness, there's a grossness, there's an embarrassment, a cringe to being seen being serious about something. And a lot of us might use humor to create a bit of like a barrier between us and the vulnerability of seriousness. I do that all the time. Like, humor is kind of my default sometimes. To protect myself. Others might use something else, but there's an ickiness, there's a grossness to being serious about something. And again, the seriousness doesn't mean taking something so serious that you end up losing yourself to it or burning yourself out. We're not talking about that either. It's just about being certain and assured, self-assured about what you want in your life and going after it. Now, the key is to take something seriously. You have to see yourself as a serious person, which requires self-worth. And when you don't take something seriously, you don't stick to your word, you don't actually do the hard thing of attempting that thing. Because taking yourself seriously in order to get something that you want means you have to attempt it. Attempting something, being seen in that vulnerability of taking action, it's scary, it's uncomfortable. But if you don't do that, you end up losing your self-trust after a while, because you show yourself you can't trust yourself. You show yourself that you don't take yourself seriously. You don't respect yourself. You don't respect your word. You're not going to stick to what you say you're going to do. You're not going to keep those promises to yourself. You don't see yourself as serious. Like, think about it in terms of a relationship with a parent and a child. That child is not going to respect that parent anymore if that parent's not going to follow through on what they said they were going to do, or the rules. If you don't stick to the rules that you set for yourself, if you don't step into the seriousness of what you want, you don't take control of that, and you are serious about what you want, truly embodying that, you're not going to take yourself seriously. You're not going to see yourself as respectable, because you can't. It can't be both ways. You can't have your cake and eat it too in that scenario. So that fear of being seen trying might be tied to the fear of taking yourself, or being seen taking yourself seriously, taking the thing that you want seriously. And the way out of that is to be vulnerable enough to take something seriously and to allow space to be seen in that. It's terrifying. It's not easy. It's easier said than done. And I'm saying this like it's something that you can just do tomorrow. It's not. It's something you have to work up to. I think starting small is always the best place to start at, right? It's choosing something that you know is serious enough, but not so overwhelming that it's going to make you feel like an imposter or embarrassed or cringe for taking it seriously. Start with something small. It might be posting something online that you think is a little unnerving to post, but you can do it. See what it feels like. Sit in that. Let yourself experience it, and then become more immune to that feeling over time. And then you can slowly start building from there and expanding the things that you take seriously. As an example for my own life, like even with this podcast, right? I wanted to start taking this a little bit more seriously, in the sense that I wanted to buy a new microphone that I can have at my desk, standing up, like a proper podcast microphone. Before, I was using my little Boya microphone. It's like a little one that you kind of clip onto your shirt, but I would have to hold it while I was recording, because anytime I clipped it to my shirt, it would kind of get muffled. The audio would get muffled with my, with whatever fabric I was wearing. And so I wanted a crisp, clean audio, of course. But it was kind of frustrating to have to hold something, because I tend to talk with my hands a lot. So it was making it harder for me to focus on what I'm trying to say, while still making sure that the microphone is positioned in front of my mouth and all that stuff. So I bought this proper microphone, started setting it up, and was having so much trouble understanding how it worked. And it was very vulnerable. It was the first time that I'd felt very vulnerable in my attempts to take something seriously. Like, I bought a piece of equipment that's seemingly very easy to use for many people, because I see it everywhere. And yet here I am struggling to set it up and figure out how it works, and trying to position this microphone to make it sound a certain way, and realizing that the audio's off, or the sound, the volume is off, or whatever. And I remember thinking, oh, this is the vulnerability. I might not have experienced it in a while when it comes to my creative work, but this is it. I'm trying to take myself seriously. I'm seeing myself take something seriously and fumbling and embarrassing myself. Obviously, no one's really seeing this. I'm sharing it now, but it can be something like that you notice within yourself that could then sabotage your efforts. I could have then decided, you know what, I'm going to return this microphone, go back to my old ways, keep myself small, not try and find something that works better for me so that I can then be a little bit more consistent with the work I do, or do more of it, whatever. That's a form of self-sabotage, and it holds you back, and it keeps you small, and it makes you then not trust yourself. It shows you that you're scared to be in that vulnerable space, and you need to be in that vulnerable space. You need to be there in order to grow and expand and get the things you want in life. So I hope this was helpful. I hope it gave you a different perspective on the fear of being seen trying, and how it might relate to the fear of taking something seriously and being seen taking something seriously. Hopefully you can take that and journal about it, think about it a little bit more, see how it relates to you in your life, and think about a few ways that you might be able to start working on it slowly. Because it is something that I think you can overcome. It's just a matter of practice. If you want to work with me one-to-one, talk about this in more detail, feel free to book a call with me over on my website. I have a Substack, of course, that I always talk about, where I'm always writing. And I offer some tips on how to work through things. I have essays on there where I explore these topics in more depth. I have journaling prompts on there. I have a whole bunch of stuff that I'm constantly working on and growing. And of course, follow me on TikTok and Instagram for my short form content, and sometimes behind the scenes photos of my life over on Instagram, if you're interested in that. Other than that, thank you for being here, and I'll be back again soon with another episode.